Hi there and welcome back to my channel. This is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video we're discussing Everyone This Christmas Has a Secret, written by Benjamin Stevenson. It's a mystery. It's the third book to feature protagonist Ernest Cunningham, and you can read this as a standalone, but it is better to read the first two books first because you get used to the feel of the series and some of the characters, especially the main character. This is the holiday special of the series, and the author takes great pains to tell us there's certain rules that this book will go by. And those rules are the things that make a holiday special a holiday special. They're different than the main books, the canon books, if you will, of a series. Now, when you understand the rules the author's putting into this book, I don't really agree with all of them as being holiday special rules. Some of them, I guess, make sense, but I think they're more there in this book, so the author can say, I'm following the rules I made up, so it all makes sense in my story. But anyway, this book is slightly different than the first two books in the series in that those main characters we meet in those first two books don't really make an appearance in this book. Some do in a cameo kind of sense, some are mentioned, but it's more different characters and our main character that's playing out in this mystery. Like the title suggests, this book is set around Christmas. It's set leading up to Christmas actually, and I think it starts maybe 4 or 5 days before Christmas Day. It's set in Australia, so it's not a white Christmas, not a cold Christmas. It's a hot Christmas, a very hot Christmas in summer. We have descriptions of bitumen on roads getting soft and melting possibly. It's set in the Blue Mountains. It's very humid up there, very hot during the day. And our character describes that in different ways through this story. So you get a true sense of what it's like in Australia during summer at Christmas in this book. And that change of scenery, I think, is a bit novel because in most Christmas books, they're not set in Australia. Most of the ones I've read anyway have been set in the Northern Hemisphere during the winter months at Christmas. So it's different to see a festive book set during summer. The setup of this mystery is this. So, Ernest Cunningham, our protagonist, gets a phone call from his ex-wife. She's in trouble. She's been arrested on suspicion of murder, of murdering her new fiancé or something. So Ernest goes to help. And even though he's not a lawyer, they let him in to talk to her for some reason. And that discussion leads him to then go to her house and then also to where her fiancé was working. And it's like a big function centre or something. So her fiancé runs a charity and they have different buildings around Australia, around the country. And also there's this magician. And this magician is taking like a stage show around the different areas and it's all linked to the charity. It's like making money for the charity or something through this magician's act. So that leads our main character, Ernest, to go to this function centre where the magician is going to perform. At this function centre, we meet all different characters. We meet the magician himself, we meet the CFO of the charity, we meet other workers involved in the charity, and they're all different type characters. They're not very deep characters though, so that's one thing about this short story. Some people call this a novella. I think it's just a short novel. It's not really a novella. I think it's a bit long for a novella. But in this short novel, which is a quick read by the way, there's not a lot of character depth in this book. So that's a shame, I think. And I think that means maybe this author can't really go into characters too deeply, doesn't have that knack in a shorter novel, because other novels in this series are longer. Bit of a shame actually, because the concept of this story is fine, the mystery's fine. If we had great character depth, or better character depth even, be more engaging, I think, as a reader. The structure of this book is like this. So we have 24 different sections in this story. And that's meant to, relate to an advent calendar, 24 windows on an advent calendar. And for each window or section, there's one clue. And at the end of each section, we're told what that clue is. And apparently all those clues, however convoluted or complex they are meant to tell you who the culprit is. Now I think there's a long bow being drawn in this book to tie all those clues together. I really do. And I think that's a thing about this series actually. In each book of this series, it's quite convoluted. Apparently the clues are all there, but I think it's a long bow to join them all together to get a culprit. I think there's a lot of forcing going on in the story to make those clues work. I think in a general mystery sense, do we need mysteries that are so convoluted that they don't kind of make sense unless you try to force the clues in? I mean, the clues are so obscure in this story. They're very obscure. There's no real connection to them. You have to force them together to solve anything. I think it takes a bit of reality away from this story. But I also think that's the purpose of this story and this series as a whole, because I don't think it's about the whole solving of the crime or the whole realism of the crime. I think it's about more the story of Ernest taking the reader through the crime and the mystery and trying to explain it in a way that he thinks it all makes sense. He's convincing the reader that everything in this story makes sense, is as it should be, and is better than other mysteries out there because it's all about the thinking of the mystery and not the action in the story. It is a festive book. It's not super festive. I think it could be more festive in the story, actually. I think Christmas is mentioned here and there, but I think it could have been done more so. And I think maybe putting it in Australian summer takes away some of that festive feel that many readers will expect. That's my thought anyway. The conclusion of this book is out there, way out there. I think the setup for the reveal is ridiculous. I don't know why it's written like that. It does remind me of the setup in the second book as well, towards the end for the reveal. That was a bit ridiculous as well. I kind of think it's trying to hone into that old school thing where the detective or that protagonist would just bring everyone together and reveal who the culprit is. It's trying to do that. But it does it in a way that's just too out there and too ridiculous. As a big setup to have some big finale scene in the story, some extreme scene, some scene that readers will go, wow, that's so big. But it's just ridiculous in my view because it doesn't make sense to the rest of the story. And it's like the protagonists putting themselves in a position of danger when they don't have to. So I don't get why the book needs that. Maybe a bit of excitement, because is there a lot of excitement in the rest of the story? Not really. But I don't think it needs that excitement as well through the rest of the story. So I don't know why the author chose that, because it just makes that ending a bit disjointed from the rest of the book. Josh is a journalist in this book who follows our protagonist around all the time. He somehow turns up very quickly wherever the protagonist is in this book. Now I do like Josh in this book. He's my favourite character in this book, actually. He is used as comic relief very often in this story, but I think it's used well. Doesn't make him silly at all, doesn't make him an outrageous character. He feels like a real character, just trying to get an edge here and there. And I like the way that's done in this story. He's engaging, he's fun, a little quirky, but he kind of fits into the story overall and makes sense. So even though he's a bit outrageous and quirky, it feels real in context with the rest of the story. Flick is the CFO of the charity group, and in this book, she's one thing, one dimension. It's all about money and not caring with this character. Everything is business. And I think she mentioned something like run a charity like a business, all that sort of thing in this book. Mentions it time and time again. And with her, you just get a character that feels like greed and money is the best option in all circumstances. Every choice is around what's best for her, even what's not best for the charity. So we get that kind of feeling with this character, and it's one-dimensional. So like I said earlier, it's like this author doesn't know how to create in-depth characters in this shorter novel. Rylan is the stage magician, and in this book, again, a character that's one dimension. With him, it's all about ego, nothing else. It's what's best for Rylan. Rylan is the main character in this character's point of view. And you get that sense straight away in this story. So one-dimensional, and maybe that's the intention, to make this character just put other characters offside. I think that's the intention of this character overall. Sometimes in short books that works. It works to an extent in this book because of what happens in this story. So maybe that intention is what the author's going for. Not depth per se, but this one dimension that's just amplified in this story to put readers offside as well about this character. For a mystery, it's quite fun, it's quick. There's a lot of movement in this book. It's quite fast-paced. Not movement as the characters going to different destinations all the time, but just movement through the story. Doesn't bog down, and that's good. There's no filler in the story, nothing to just slow the pace down and turn you away from the book in that respect. And I rate this a 3 out of 5. It does tie into the first two books somewhat, but you can read this as a standalone. You don't have to read the first two books, but I think it makes sense if you do, because you get used to the protagonist, how he thinks, and what the mysteries are like, what the intention of the series is like, because it is different to other mysteries out there. It's not about action. It's not about, bloody crime scenes or big crime scene. It's about this character who's not a detective, not a PI, an everyday person who's trying to solve a mystery and put together these kind of outrageous and obscure clues and line them up and join them together. But like I said, the solving of this crime feels like those clues are forced together in a way that doesn't really make sense. So I'm not sure with the overall construct of the clues in this mystery, that's the best way of doing this. But I think structure-wise, this story is quite good, is engaging, and I had fun reading it. On my channel, I review many mysteries. If you enjoy mysteries, check out my channel and subscribe. On the screen now is a link to another video for a book I'm sure you'll enjoy.